The one thing none of them looked at were my feet.
I have had an injury for almost a whole year.
If there's ever an excuse to bludge and not push yourself hard, it's when you're coming back from a layoff. So take that excuse and run with it.
Yeah.
Guys, it's literally so cold in Melbourne right now. Okay, also, I'm not wearing a bra, and YouTube is like an ultimate thirst trap, so I'm also using this to like cover up. Hey, welcome back to my YouTube. Make sure you subscribe before we get into the good stuff. So today's YouTube is one that I have filmed with my physio Chris, who has been fixing my injury, and I have seen 3 other physios before going to him, and he literally, like, I made more progress working with Chris in 3 weeks than I did in almost a year with other physios, because the one thing none of them looked at were my feet. And if you don't start with feet, it's kind of like the base to everything. It's like the soil that you plant a tree in. If that is shit, your tree will not grow. I actually don't know anything about planting trees. I don't have a green thumb, finger, whatever it is. So I don't know if that's true, but in this case it was. So he looked at my feet and was like, yep, you've got flat feet and you need orthotics and you've got weak adductors and you fire your hamstrings before your glutes. So that's why you've got hamstring tendinopathy. So no one else found the hamstring tendinopathy. I kind of self-diagnosed. So yeah, anyway, he knows his shit is what I'm trying to say. So I asked him if he wanted to film some content and help educate you guys around returning to the gym after some time off, whether you've just finished lockdown. I know people in the UK are returning to the gyms, or if you've been sick, away, injured, whatever it might be. Obviously with injury it's a bit different because you have like your injury to consider, but we have some general information around how to return to the gym, what to do with like your volume and your load and warm-ups, setting expectations, because I find that's something that, you know, we're all so eager to get back into the gym, and it can often be really disheartening when you get back because you get to the gym and you remember the weights, say you're weight training, you remember the weights you were lifting previously, and that's your bar, like that's your level of expectation. So you're like, okay, I probably won't be able to lift that because I've like lost some strength, but maybe I'll be able to do like close to that. And that was how I got my injury, because I had been deadlifting 120 kilos the last time I was in the gym. Then when I got back, I was like, you know, I want to ease myself in. 80 kilos is probably like, you know, light enough so that I'm not going to injure myself, and, you know, I won't have like a bruised ego. And I remember deadlifting the 80 kilos and being like, this feels so heavy. I feel like so weak and shit, and I was really disheartened. And then my injury happened. Like, so tip number 1, leave your ego at the door, because the only one that's going to be affected is you. No one gives a shit if you are lifting heavy or close to what you previously were. No one even knows what you're previously lifting. So first of all, let's just leave that at the door. Yeah, so expectations is a really important one that we chat about in this. It's a quick conversation, but there's a lot of helpful tips and stuff in there that you guys will be able to implement for returning to the gym. So I hope it's really helpful. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions. If you want to see Chris again, he's always happy to film content with me. So yeah, let me know. Let's get to it.
So I'm here with Chris. He's my physio, and we're going to chat about how to return to the gym after some time off. Obviously, it's really timely with a lot of people returning after the pandemic or coming up to getting back into the gym. A lot of people have had a really long time off. Some have been really fortunate to have equipment at home to maintain some strength. But if you're anything like me, you're probably going to go back to the gym and go a little bit too hard, because you sort of have in your head the previous numbers that you were hitting and you're just really excited to get back to the gym. I have had an injury for almost a whole year, mostly because I was seeing the wrong people, and Chris has been able to help me so much. So I just wanted to chat to him and give you guys some tips and advice for getting back to the gym and preventing injury and just having a smooth transition back into lifting. So hit us up with some tips, recommendations, any advice.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, so if you're not the only one who comes back to the gym after a layoff with the best of intentions, wanting to, achieve your fitness goals, New Year's resolutions, get back on track, whatever the case may be. And the temptation is always, after any time off, whether it's because we've come off a lockdown and a pandemic, whether it's just because we've come off a different injury, whether we're coming back from holidays or we've just lost motivation for a little bit, when we come back, we want to achieve our goals, right? So we want to jump straight back into the levels and the intensities and the types of training we were doing previously, okay? However, there's a few problems with that, okay? First of all, the harsh reality of the human body is that we lose strength and conditioning far quicker than we gain it, okay? Which sucks for our fitness endeavors, but that's just true, okay? Another reality of the human body is that when we're suddenly increasing and spiking our workloads, our risk of injury spikes significantly, okay? And you can imagine if you're going from doing nothing at all to doing lots of exercise, well, that's a significant spike in our workload, right? So for those two reasons, we need to be really, really careful when we're coming back into the gym, and we need to make sure that we're reducing our intensities, okay? So there's quite a few ways to do this. If we're talking from, really fitnessy point of view, we can be reducing our frequency of our training, we can be reducing the volume or the total amount of training, we can be reducing our intensities, our sets and our reps in the gym, or if you're a runner, it might be how far or how fast you're running or whatever it is necessary to you. And there's lots of different ways that we can play with these variables to make sure that we're coming back at a safe level and slowly increasing our intensities and our training efforts over time, okay? However, to put it really, really simply, the best rule of thumb and the best advice that I can give is that we should be feeling like essentially we are not working anywhere close to our limit for at least a period of 2 to 4 weeks when we're coming back into the gym or back into training, okay? So you should literally feel like you're bludgeoning, you're not pushing yourself. It almost might feel like you're not getting anywhere, okay? But that's the level that you need to hold yourself back to minimize your risk of injury, okay? And of course, the temptation is to go straight back into things and, oh my God, I don't want to feel like I'm not working hard, and I don't want to feel like I'm bludgeoning, and I don't want to feel like I'm lazy. But if we're slowly building that up, slowly letting your body adapt to things over at least 2, if not 3 to 4 weeks, well, in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, your progress is going to be far greater than if you smash yourself in the first couple of weeks with great intentions and then you break down. So as far as progress goes, we've got to look at the long term and really hold yourself back in terms of working hard for, that 2 to 4 week period.
So common mistakes and errors you would see would just be people going in and sort of picking up where they left off, being like, oh, I'm going to be training 6 days, 7 days a week. I'm going to be hitting like really high sets, high reps and like high weights, intensities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And training close to failure. So
Absolutely.
it's just like you go into the gym, and it's hard because it's an ego thing as well, right? Like
100%.
you go in and you're like, oh, I'm here, I'm back. Like I know for me personally, I was like, oh my God, I'm putting such like baby weights on the bar. This is embarrassing. And it's
100%.
like, well, the only one that's going to be embarrassed is me when I get injured and I take a year off. So.
100%. It's a pride thing. You look back at what you previously could do potentially and you're like, well, geez, I don't want to do that. Or, there is unfortunately lots of insecurity with the gym setting and the gym floor, and we might come back and putting baby weights on the bar and, oh my God, are they going to think that I'm not pushing myself and I'm bludgeoning, or are they going to think that I'm weak or I've lost strength or whatever? Well, you've really got to put that aside in the first 2 to 4 weeks, which mentally, psychologically can be a huge challenge, and the temptation is obviously there like we've spoken about, but you've got to find a way to put that aside completely and literally be not pushing yourself. Like you spoke about training close to failure, you should be nowhere near it. You know what I mean? Like if we talk about doing, a 10 rep max effort on some sort of exercise in the gym where at the end you've only got 1 or 2 reps left in the tank, you should have 5 or 6 or 7 reps left in the tank by the time you're finishing your set in the first few weeks. Otherwise your risk of injury is just going to be huge.
And how would you progress that? So say you're working like 5 to 6 RIR for the first 2 to 4 weeks. Ongoing, like, is that something that you just go based on how your body's responding and how you're feeling in recovery?
Yeah.
Or is it like, oh, okay, we're just going to bring that up to like, I don't know, 3 to 4 RIR or like really slow increments?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the individual and the person. It depends on your injury history. It depends on how well you recover outside of the gym, which there can be 101 different lifestyle factors that contribute to that, but definitely slow progression. So it might be going from a 6 RIR to a 5 RIR to a 4 RIR, etc. 1 week at a time type thing. It may be a little bit faster than that if you don't have an injury history and you're doing things fairly well and you're recovering. It may have to be a bit slower if you're coming back from a certain injury that used to bug you in the past. But either way, the progression's got to be slow, and then when you think it's going to be slow and it's at a slow level, you probably need to pull it back an extra 10 or 20% after having some time off.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of like number of exercises or anything like that, do you have recommendations around that, or is it, again, it depends?
So once again, it's completely individual dependent, but you know, if you used to, for example, prior to a lockdown or prior to a layoff in the gym, spend an hour on the gym floor and you do 8 exercises and you do 20 sets, right? Then maybe a good place to start is by halving that, by doing 4 exercises instead of 8, by doing 10 sets instead of 20, and by spending half the amount of time on the gym floor, and then slowly building that up. So in 4 to 5 weeks time, that's when we're close to your previous levels rather than right now.
Yeah, okay, so 4 to 5 weeks is sort of a good time to be like, cool, this is the timeline I'm working with, and also knowing, like setting that expectation for I'm probably going to be close to where I was before in that time, so it sort of gives you a better picture.
I mean, that's a rough timeline. As I said, everyone's different, and it depends on what we've done over that period. So you could have gone and done nothing for the last 6 months. Well, that progression is going to be slower compared to someone who's done nothing for only 2 weeks, for example, compared to someone who's done 2 sessions of home training for the last 6 weeks compared to 4 sessions of gym training. So individual circumstances have always got to be considered, but the further back you're coming from, the further layoff that you've had, the slower your progression needs to be. So for most people, around that month mark to get back to previous level would be a rule of thumb. Some may be a little bit faster, they can get away with it. Some might have to be a bit slower than that too.
And is there anything else you'd suggest, like extra warm-ups, activations, whatever, that are going to help? Or is it like just whatever you usually do? Like if you're doing warm-up sets beforehand, that's fine.
Yeah, completely depends on your injury history. So speak to a health professional who you can trust.
Say no one's injured.
Say no one's injured, then whatever you were doing previously as a warm-up is completely okay. And to be brutally honest, you can probably get away with a bit less of that, because the intensities that you're working at, you shouldn't feel like you need to warm up as much to achieve that.
Yeah, so you're not like priming your nervous system to go and hit like a 1 RMPB.
No, you're not, because you don't need all the preparation work to achieve that intensity, because you shouldn't be working close to that intensity. So if you're feeling like your warm-up needs to be extensive, well, that's probably a red flag to say your intensity or the how hard you're working right now is too hard. Yeah.
Cool. I think we've covered everything. Is there anything else you think is important for them to know with returning?
Just try to put your ego at the door. Look for the bigger picture. Think about your progression, your development 6 months and 12 months from now rather than next week. That's the biggest thing. Yeah,
and like, look at me. I'm in a position now where I wish I did that. And to be honest, I thought I was. Like, I had in my head, okay, 120 kilos was my last deadlift, so 80 kilos should be alright. And it felt heavy at the time, and I was like, oh, this doesn't feel great, but it's a significant amount back from where I was at. But it had been so long that it should have been, I don't know, like 60 kilos.
Yeah, if not 40.
Yeah, okay, so take me as the lesson. Don't be the lesson. Don't learn the lesson yourself. Learn the lesson through me. So
if there's ever an excuse to bludge and not push yourself hard, it's when you're coming back from a layoff. So take that excuse and run with it. Yeah,
it's also a really good time to like recomp. Like if you're unconditioned, right, they're one of the sort of groups of people that will be able to recomp a little bit more than when you're like, more advanced at training. And
absolutely.
So that's a positive thing. That's a gain.
Got to see the positives.
Yeah, cool. All right, thanks so much.
Nice, pleasure.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed seeing what Chris had to say about returning to the gym. Please don't do what I did and go in and think you're going to be lifting close to what you previously were and just injure yourself, because I have spent the last year rehabbing and I only just deadlifted 80 kilos last week, and that's like pretty much a year since I injured myself, less a month, maybe 10, 11 months. So it's been a long road back and I'm still not where I was, but I'm getting there. So yeah, please just take it easy and ease yourself in. I hope this was helpful. Please make sure you subscribe, like and comment, turn post notifications on if you don't want to miss a video. I'll see you guys back here next week.